Ang secret sa kompletong sarap ng Pasko? Eat and cheese.
Pag malakas ang buto, tuloy ang galaw. Mag-caltrate araw-araw.
This is Odin. And this, even that, yeah, all these are Odin in RAK Rakan. They call him a chief god, the supreme god of the Norse pantheon, a nameless god, god of creation, lord of rage, lord of madness, supreme god of Valhalla, Midgard and Helheim, the High One, All-Father, Hooded One, Terrible One, God of Runes, and most importantly, the strongest God of War. I call him the main and true villain of this series, and his goal is simple. He wants to destroy, what you may be asking? Everyone. Humanity, the other gods, the universe, and everything else. He wields this divine weapon, the legendary demon spear Gungnir, the primordial sword Gram, the bracelet, helmet, and necklace worn by fellow primordial god pillars Ymir, Chaos, and Satan, and likely a next level set of abilities. Therefore, this has led many to think that Odin is going to take the rank 1 spot as the strongest character in the RAK Rakan series. But here on the Mysterious Weave YouTube channel, I'll be breaking down absolutely everything you need to know. So, right at the start of the series, Chapter 1, we see Odin looking at Brynhilda menacingly. This is right after she objected the destruction of humanity and began introducing the Ragnarok tournament outlined in the Valhalla Constitution. But all the talk throughout the chapter is only from his birds. We are then introduced to his son, Thor, who is fighting in round 1 for the gods, and Odin telling him to crush humanity beneath his foot, alongside explaining some aspects of Thor's lore and abilities throughout his domination of humanity at the start of the series. We are then introduced to Loki and have a goofy interaction between him and Odin, highlighting that bro does not care about Loki's pranks or trickery. However, the first time we get an all-out wild reaction from Odin in the series is during the Adam and Zeus fight, where humanity's fighter went far beyond what anyone thought was possible for a human, and maybe even for a god as well. Bro is simply just too goated. And then in round 3, when Sasaki defeated Poseidon, the first time a god has been slayed in this tournament and humanity had gained a point, we see the Norse god absolutely crashing out and rage coming from him, alongside him also being pissed during the following round when Jack the Ripper defeated Hercules and the scores were now at a tie, which eventually brings us to the start of round 5, the introduction of Buddha and the Lucky Gods, where we get the first big moment from Odin in the series. This is when him and Zeus arrive to stop the group battle between Team Buddha and Team Loki, where we have his insane pressure appearing for the first time, pretty much telling everyone to pack it up. The Lucky Gods are fearful, the Shinsengumi are scared and worried, Loki loses interest right away, and even the Mad Lad Buddha begins taking his leave, of course after having a goated interaction with Zeus. Then the two supreme gods remained, where Zeus says to Odin, "Sheesh, quite a troublesome man." That being said, this Ragnarok isn't quite going as expected, a Norseman, before taking his leave as well to watch the current fight between Sheila and Raiden, where we see Odin alone in this flower garden, beginning to crash out or reveal his true sinister nature, an evil smile as the flowers begin to wither away. Eventually bringing us to round 6, where Buddha ends up betraying the gods and fights for humanity instead, enraging absolutely every god and forcing Odin to actually speak up in front of everyone. Buddha, are you prepared to make enemies of all of us gods? Pretty ironic considering what Odin's true plans actually are. However, he spends the entirety of the Buddha fight mostly just watching without saying anything, some confusing looks with the whole Hajun situation, and of course rage when Buddha eventually claimed victory for humanity once again, resulting in another unique scene from Odin in the series. He ends up pulling up on Beelzebub, coming to the conclusion that this god likely had something to do with the previous fight with Buddha and the arrival of Hajun, where he's saying this: I have waited a long time in preparations for this battle. I will permit no one to disrupt it, which only gains Beelzebub's interest rather than scaring him away to any degree. Once again,
Adobo made easy. Try Dato Puti Adobo series. Just pour, cook, and serve.
Again, the foreshadowing and hints about the truth are beginning to be set up at this point. Now, in regards to round 7, 8, and 9, all we get from Odin is various reaction shots, sometimes rage, for example, when Huang defeated Hades, but as a whole, nothing much from the Norse god, until after round 9 concluded, where we see some of the gods meeting to decide who's going to fight next, having Odin sit alongside Thor and Loki, where they accept Anubis's request to fight in round 10, and don't seem to have a problem with the whole Susanoo cucking Anubis situation, not really having any interest in that choice and what's going on for round 10. But then we get all the major reveals about Odin. This is right after the meeting where we see Odin leave and Buddha pulls up on him, like always wielding true Mad Lad energy, and questions the Norse god on one topic: who the heck is Siegfried? Which eventually resulted in Odin raging out and trying to actually take out the Enlightened One, alongside Beelzebub arriving as well and clashing with Odin. Therefore, before I continue this fight and the breakdown of this situation, let me quickly explain Odin's canon flashback when he was indeed a primordial god.